can catch up. Tonight, the internet is on fire after Candace Owens dropped what many are calling her most explosive claim yet. Social media is flooded, timelines are divided, and fans are asking the same question over and over again. How did Kirk suddenly become the center of a storm involving Epstein, politics, and power? No court ruling, no official confirmation, just allegations, leaked photos being discussed online,
tied to orphanages in Eastern Europe, specifically in Romania, through a program called Romanian Angels, since she was a teenager. When she was 17 years old, she founded Romanian Angels as a nonprofit.
This is righteous anger because this is...
And a growing wave of commentary that refuses to die down. Supporters say this is long overdue scrutiny. Critics say it's reckless and dangerous. But one thing is undeniable. Emotions are running high, and the story keeps getting darker with every new post. People close to the situation are reportedly stunned, while fans say they feel betrayed, confused, and desperate for answers. Others believe this is nothing more than a calculated distraction designed to tear reputations apart in the court of public opinion. Still, the connections being talked about, the old footage being resurfaced, and the questions being raised have pushed this controversy into overdrive. So, what is really being claimed, and why is everyone suddenly talking about Kirk in the same breath as Epstein? Stay with us, because the allegations alone are already shaking the internet. The conversation did not explode overnight. It crept in slowly, carried by whispers, screenshots, and long threads where people debated tone more than truth. Commentators began pointing out that what was happening was not a verdict or a
entire presentation is elite. I'm on CBS stage with pre-packaged questions and Barry Weiss, and I obviously have rehearsed this answer because I got these questions ahead of time. I obviously know I'm going to get asked this because even getting questions ahead to me, preparing answers, feels fake and gay.
Revelation, but a moment where online narratives started stacking on top of each other. At the center of it all was Candace Owens, speaking with a confidence that made
my team is amazing, and my favorite date is April 24th because it's not too hot and it's not too cold, and all you need is a light jacket. Like, it feels...
Listeners lean forward, even while critics warned that confidence does not equal confirmation. Fans watching from the outside felt torn because the story was framed as questions, patterns, and coincidences, not facts carved in stone. What made the situation feel heavier was how familiar it all sounded. People online said they had seen this playbook before, where old footage resurfaces, past associations are re-examined, and silence itself becomes suspicious. According to commentary spreading across social media, photos allegedly linked to Epstein's private island were being discussed again, not as proof, but as fuel. No authorities stepped in to confirm or deny. Instead, creators filled the vacuum, breaking down timelines and facial expressions, reading between the lines of interviews that suddenly felt scripted to some viewers. Supporters of Candace argued that she was only asking the questions others were too afraid to ask. They claimed that when powerful circles close ranks, the only tool left is public pressure. On the other side, critics pushed back hard, saying that commentary like this can destroy lives without ever proving anything. Emotions ran high, as fans debated whether curiosity had crossed into cruelty. In comment sections, people argued about motive more than evidence, wondering why this story was being pushed now and not years ago. The figure at the center of these discussions, Kirk, became less of a person and more of a symbol in online spaces. Some viewers spoke about her past in pageantry, framing it as a gateway into elite rooms. Others said that was unfair and rooted in stereotypes. Old interviews were replayed, with viewers analyzing pauses, rehearsed answers, and body language. Fans are shocked not because something was proven, but because doubt itself had become contagious. As the commentary grew louder, reactions from surrounding circles were pulled into the spotlight. Friends and colleagues were scrutinized for their silence, while past collaborations were reframed as suspicious alliances. People online claimed that if you stand too close to controversy, you eventually get covered in it, whether you deserve it or not. The family was left divided in the court of public opinion, with some defending fiercely, and others chose to stay quiet, hoping the storm would pass. One recurring theme in these discussions was power. Commentators spoke about how power shields some people while exposing others. They argued that when names linked to money and influence appear in the same sentence as scandal, the internet tends to assume the worst. None of it was presented as settled truth, yet the emotional weight felt real to those watching. Fans said they felt manipulated, unsure whether they were witnessing accountability or entertainment dressed up as justice. Candace's commentary style only added fuel to the fire. She spoke with sharp language, framing her words as righteous anger rather than accusation. Supporters echoed that framing, saying anger can be justified even without a court ruling. Critics responded that anger without proof can still cause damage. This clash of perspectives turned the story into something bigger than one allegation. It became a debate about who gets to ask questions and who gets protected from them. Online creators dissected every angle, building timelines that linked unrelated events through implication rather than confirmation. They stressed that they were only connecting dots already visible, while skeptics reminded viewers that dots can be connected in any pattern you choose. Emotions ran high again when past charitable work was brought into the conversation, not as wrongdoing, but as something some people claimed deserved closer examination. Others said dragging charity into speculation crossed a line. Fans watching from home felt pulled into a reality show-style drama, where no episode ever ends. Each reaction video spawned another response, each response another theory. People said it felt like watching a slow-motion train wreck where nobody could look away. Even those who urged caution admitted that the narrative was
gripping because it mixed politics, influence, and mystery in a way that demanded attention. Through all of this, one fact remained clear to most observers. Nothing had been legally established. Everything existed in the realm of commentary, opinion, and interpretation. Yet the emotional stakes felt high because reputations were being reshaped in real time. Fans argued late into the night, asking whether silence meant guilt or self-preservation. Others asked whether speaking out would only make things worse. By the time the discussions reached their loudest point, the story had taken on a life of its own. It was no longer about a single claim or a single commentator. It was about how quickly narratives spread and how hard they are to contain once released. Viewers were left sitting with discomfort rather than answers, unsure whether they were witnessing the start of accountability or just another chapter in the endless cycle of online scandal, where questions linger long after the cameras move on. The conversation around this controversy did not begin with a single announcement or a clear accusation. It started with scattered reactions that slowly merged into one loud narrative. Online commentators began revisiting old interviews, past appearances, and moments that once felt ordinary but now looked different under a harsher lens. People were not saying anything was proven, but they were saying the timing felt strange. Fans are shocked because what once appeared as polished media appearances were now being described as overly controlled, almost rehearsed, and that perception alone was enough to raise eyebrows. Many viewers focused on how public figures respond when pressure builds. Pauses in interviews, carefully chosen words, and repeated phrases suddenly became talking points. Commentators argue that when someone answers questions with the same tone every time, it can feel less like honesty and more like performance. Others pushed back, saying that media training exists for a reason, and that being prepared does not equal deception. Still, the internet rarely waits for balance, and speculation filled the BAPs faster than facts ever could. Candace Owens became the loudest voice driving this discussion, not by claiming certainty, but by insisting that questions needed to be asked. Her supporters said she was doing what investigative journalists used to do, pulling threads and seeing what unraveled. Critics argued that this was not investigation, but entertainment framed as concern. Emotions ran high on both sides, especially as clips from past interviews were replayed again and again, each replay adding a new layer of interpretation. Kirk, once mentioned mostly in professional contexts, was suddenly at the center of intense online scrutiny. Fans began dissecting her background, her career choices, and the circles she moved in. Some said her rise looked too smooth, too protected. Others said this was a familiar pattern where successful women are accused of manipulation simply for being visible. The family was left divided in the court of public opinion, not because of anything officially confirmed, but because narratives can be powerful even when they are unproven. A major turning point in the discussion came when older photos and associations were brought back into the spotlight. Commentators emphasized that these images were not new discoveries, but their reappearance sparked renewed interest. No authority confirmed what these images meant, yet social media users treated them like puzzle pieces. Reactions ranged from disbelief to certainty, even though certainty was built entirely on interpretation rather than evidence. Friends and colleagues connected to Erica found themselves pulled into the conversation as well. Their past collaborations were reframed as suspicious alliances, and their silence became a story of its own. Fans argued endlessly about whether staying quiet was a smart move or an admission of guilt. Others reminded everyone that silence can also be a way to avoid adding fuel to a fire that is already out of control. Still, the pressure to respond grew with every trending post. What made the situation feel especially dramatic was how quickly it escalated. One commentary video led to another, each adding more emotion and speculation. Phrases like "fans are shocked" and "emotions ran high" were no longer exaggerations. They described exactly how people felt scrolling through endless threads.
Some viewers admitted they felt uneasy consuming this content, yet they kept watching, pulled in by the suspense of not knowing what might be revealed next. Candace's tone played a significant role in shaping reactions. She spoke with conviction, framing her commentary as moral outrage rather than rumor. Supporters echoed that energy, saying outrage is justified when powerful people are questioned. Critics warned that outrage without confirmation can spiral into character assassination. This clash turned the discussion into something bigger than Erica alone. It became a debate about who gets questioned and who is shielded by influence. Another layer of tension came from the way past charitable efforts were discussed online. Commentators did not present accusations, but they questioned motives and timelines, suggesting that good deeds can sometimes exist alongside questionable behavior. Others said this line of thinking was dangerous because it cast doubt on genuine efforts to help others. The emotional conflict here was clear, with viewers struggling to separate skepticism from cynicism. As the story grew, reaction videos poured in from all sides. Some creators urged caution, reminding viewers that commentary is not confirmation. Others leaned into the drama, using dramatic language and ominous music to heighten suspense. Fans debated whether this was responsible storytelling or exploitation. The family was left divided again, not in reality perhaps, but in how the audience
perceived them. By this point, the narrative had shifted from specific claims to broader themes of power and accountability. Commentators talked about how influence can shape perception, making some people seem untouchable while others are quickly condemned. Viewers were left asking whether this situation represented overdue scrutiny or another example of online pylon culture. No clear answers emerged, only more questions. What kept people engaged was the feeling that something was being hidden, even if no one could say exactly what. That feeling alone was enough to sustain the controversy. Fans said they felt manipulated, unsure whether they were witnessing truth-seeking or performance. Emotions ran high because reputations were being reshaped in real time, and once that happens, it is hard to undo. As discussions continued late into the night, one thing became clear to most observers. Nothing had been legally established, nothing had been officially confirmed, yet the impact was real. Erica Kirk's name was now permanently tied to a narrative she did not create, driven by commentary and reaction rather than verdicts. The audience was left suspended between curiosity and caution, aware that in the digital age, stories do not wait for proof before they take on a life of their own. As the commentary intensified, the focus slowly shifted from isolated clips to a broader web of associations that people online began stitching together. Nothing new was officially uncovered, yet the way older information was reframed gave it a sense of urgency. Commentators spoke as if they were uncovering a hidden pattern, even while repeatedly reminding audiences that these were allegations circulating online, not confirmed findings. Fans are shocked because the narrative felt less like a single controversy and more like a domino effect, where one question led to another without pause. Social media spaces became crowded with theories about access and influence. People debated how certain individuals move effortlessly through powerful rooms while others never get the chance. Some viewers argue that proximity to elite circles naturally brings scrutiny, while others said the scrutiny itself was uneven and often driven by bias. Emotions ran high as supporters defended Erica by pointing out her public record, while critics insisted that public records never tell the whole story. The tension between those two views kept the discussion alive. Dialogue from commentary videos was shared widely, with phrases repeated until they felt heavier than their original meaning. One creator said, "This is not about guilt, it is about transparency." Another responded, "Transparency without evidence is just theater." Fans picked sides quickly, turning comment sections into battlegrounds. The family was left divided in perception once again, with some people framing them as victims of a smear, and others framing them as beneficiaries of silence. A recurring point of debate involved the idea of being media trained. Commentators questioned whether polished answers indicate preparation or avoidance. Defenders argued that anyone in the public eye learns to speak carefully to avoid misinterpretation. Critics countered that careful speech can still conceal uncomfortable truths. This back and forth played out endlessly, with no resolution, only stronger opinions. Fans admitted that the uncertainty itself was exhausting, yet they could not stop watching. As reaction videos multiplied, the story took on a reality show quality. Dramatic pauses, ominous music, and close readings of facial expressions turned ordinary footage into something suspicious. People began asking whether they were watching analysis or performance. Emotions ran high because the stakes felt personal, even for viewers who had no direct connection to the people involved. It felt like everyone was being asked to judge without being given a verdict. Another twist in the narrative came when online commentators began discussing power dynamics between institutions and individuals. They argued that organizations often protect their image at all costs, sometimes leaving individuals exposed. Others pushed back, saying that organizations also become targets simply because they are visible. Fans debated whether silence from institutions meant strategy or fear. Again, nothing was confirmed, but speculation filled the space where statements might have been.
Friends and former collaborators were scrutinized more intensely than before. Old photos showing shared stages or events were circulated as if they were clues. People asked why certain connections existed and what they really meant. Defenders reminded everyone that shared events do not equal shared wrongdoing. Critics responded that repeated proximity raises legitimate questions. The emotional conflict deepened as viewers struggled to separate coincidence from conspiracy. Candace's commentary continued to act as a catalyst. Her tone suggested moral urgency, which supporters found refreshing and critics found reckless. She framed her words as concern for truth, while opponents framed them as personal vendetta. Fans argued about motive, wondering whether this was about accountability or influence. Emotions ran high because motive is often impossible to prove, yet easy to assume. Another layer of drama emerged when online discussions turned toward the cost of controversy. People spoke about reputational damage, mental health, and the long-term effects of viral allegations. Some viewers expressed sympathy, saying no one deserves to be tried by social media. Others argued that public figures accept this risk when they step into the spotlight. The family was left divided again in how audiences perceived their silence, their statements, or their lack of response. As days passed, the story refused to cool down. Instead, it evolved. New commentators entered the conversation, each bringing a slightly different angle. Some urged patience.
Others urged pressure. Fans felt pulled in opposing directions, wanting answers but also wanting fairness. Emotions ran high because the line between questioning and accusing felt increasingly thin. What made the situation even more complex was how quickly misinformation could blend with commentary. A single claim, even when framed as speculation, could be repeated until it felt real. Viewers admitted they had to pause and remind themselves that much of what they were hearing was opinion. Still, repetition has power, and that power shaped perception in ways no official statement could easily undo. By this stage, the controversy had grown beyond any single person. It became a case study in how narratives form online. People discussed whether this was an example of collective investigation or collective projection. Fans argued about responsibility, asking whether creators should slow down or keep pushing until answers appear. Emotions ran high because no one wanted to feel complicit in spreading something untrue, yet many felt compelled to keep watching. Throughout all of this, the lack of concrete resolution became its own source of drama. Viewers were left with fragments instead of conclusions, reactions instead of facts. The story thrived on that uncertainty. Erica's presence in the narrative felt less defined by what she had done and more by what others believed she represented. That distinction mattered, yet it was often lost in the noise. As the discussion continued to spiral, audiences began to realize that even if no new information ever surfaced, the impact had already been made. Reputations had been questioned, trust had been shaken, and lines had been drawn. Fans were left asking themselves whether this was the cost of transparency or the consequence of unchecked commentary. The suspense did not come from waiting for proof, but from watching how far a story can travel once it captures collective imagination. By the time the discussion reached this stage, the emotional temperature online had shifted from curiosity to confrontation. People were no longer just asking questions, they were challenging each other's motives. Some viewers accused creators of chasing views, while others accused defenders of protecting power. Fans are shocked by how quickly the conversation turned personal, with strangers questioning each other's values instead of the story itself. Emotions ran high as every new clip reignited arguments that never seemed to end. Commentators began focusing on patterns rather than moments. They talked about how narratives gain strength when repeated across different platforms, even if nothing new is added. A claim mentioned once can be dismissed, but when echoed by dozens of voices, it starts to feel heavier. Critics warned that repetition can create an illusion of truth. Supporters countered that repetition happens because concerns remain unanswered. This tension kept viewers glued, even as frustration grew. Dialogue segments from reaction videos became central to the drama. Creators reenacted conversations, imagining what might be said behind closed doors. Some framed these imagined exchanges as emotional breakdowns, others as calculated damage control. Viewers debated whether such dramatization crossed a line. Fans admitted they felt conflicted, entertained by the storytelling, but uneasy about how real people were being portrayed through speculation. Another twist emerged when attention turned to timing. Why now became the question repeated everywhere. Commentators suggested that moments of transition often invite scrutiny, while others implied that timing itself hinted at strategy. Defenders argue that timing proves nothing, and that stories resurface randomly online. Emotions ran high because timing can be interpreted in endless ways, each reinforcing a different conclusion depending on who is watching. As the narrative deepened, discussions about accountability grew louder. Some viewers argue that asking hard questions is necessary, even uncomfortable. Others said accountability must be grounded in evidence, not implication. Fans split into camps, each convinced they were protecting truth.
The family was left divided in how audiences imagined their private reactions, with some picturing unity against outside pressure, and others imagining internal strain caused by relentless speculation. Social media algorithms played their own role in amplifying tension. Viewers noticed that once they watched one video on the topic, dozens more appear instantly. This created a feedback loop where outrage fed visibility and visibility fed outrage. Emotions ran high because people felt trapped in a cycle, unable to escape the story even if they wanted to. Some viewers admitted they muted keywords, only to see the topic resurface in different forms. Commentators also began questioning the responsibility of audiences. Is watching and sharing part of the problem, they asked, or is attention the only way to demand clarity? Fans debated whether disengaging would allow powerful narratives to go unchallenged. Others argued that disengaging is sometimes the most ethical choice. This internal conflict added another layer of drama, making viewers feel implicated rather than passive. Personal stakes became more pronounced as creators speculated about long-term consequences. They talked about careers affected, relationships strained, and trust eroded. Even without confirmation, the impact felt real. Emotions ran high as viewers imagined how they would cope if placed under similar scrutiny. Empathy clashed with suspicion, leaving many unsure where to land. Another element fueling the controversy was the use of language itself. Commentators dissected word choices, tone, and emphasis in public statements. A single phrase could be read as defensive or dismissive depending on interpretation. Fans argued over semantics, proving how language can become a battleground when facts are scarce. The family
Was left divided again in audience perception, judged not just by actions, but by imagined intent behind every word. As more voices joined the conversation, the original claims began to blur. Some viewers struggled to remember what was actually said at the start versus what had been added later. Misinformation did not always appear as false statements, but as exaggerated interpretations. Critics urged viewers to slow down and separate commentary from reality. Supporters insisted that slowing down only benefits those who prefer silence. Emotions ran high because both sides believed urgency mattered. The story's endurance surprised even seasoned commentators. Many expected interest to fade, yet it kept resurfacing with renewed energy. Some attributed this to unresolved questions, others to the way controversy hooks attention. Fans confessed they were tired, but still checking updates, hoping for clarity that never quite arrived. This sense of waiting became its own form of suspense. Online discussions also revealed deeper cultural divides. Debates about power, trust, and skepticism reflected broader frustrations beyond this single story. Viewers projected their own experiences onto the narrative, making it resonate on a personal level. Emotions ran high because the controversy tapped into feelings of being unheard or misled in other areas of life. The story became a mirror rather than a mystery. Through all of this, one fact remained unchanged. No official resolution appeared. No statement definitively closed the conversation. Instead, the absence of closure allowed speculation to thrive. Viewers were left navigating a landscape of opinions, each claiming insight. Erica's name continued to circulate, shaped less by documented actions and more by the roles assigned to her within this unfolding drama. As days turned into weeks, the controversy felt less like a single event and more like a case study in modern media dynamics. Audiences watched in real time as commentary created consequences without conclusions. Fans were left asking whether truth still has space to breathe when stories move faster than verification. The suspense did not lie in what would be proven, but in whether the cycle itself would ever slow down. As the controversy continued to unfold, a noticeable shift happened in how people were reacting. The initial shock began to fade, replaced by a more complicated mix of doubt, fatigue, and quiet concern. Fans are shocked not because something new was revealed, but because the story refused to settle. It hovered in a strange space where nothing was confirmed, yet nothing felt resolved. Viewers started asking whether this was how modern scandals now function, living indefinitely through commentary rather than conclusions. Some commentators began stepping back, urging audiences to reflect on how quickly assumptions had formed. They reminded viewers that speculation can feel convincing when repeated often enough, even when it lacks solid grounding. Others rejected that caution, arguing that reflection too often becomes an excuse for inaction. Emotions ran high as people accused each other of either being reckless or complicit. The divide was no longer just about the story, but about values and responsibility. The emotional toll of the situation became a topic of discussion itself. Creators spoke about how constant scrutiny can wear people down, regardless of guilt or innocence. Fans debated whether empathy should exist alongside skepticism. Some viewers admitted they felt uncomfortable watching real lives become long-running entertainment arcs.
Others countered that public figures benefit from attention and must accept its darker sides. The family was left divided again in the imagination of the audience, portrayed either as resilient or fractured, depending on who was telling the story. Another dramatic twist came from silence. The longer no definitive response appeared, the more silence was interpreted as strategy. Commentators argued over whether silence was wise legal caution or a sign of avoidance. Defenders insisted that speaking too soon can make things worse. Critics said silence allows speculation to grow unchecked. Emotions ran high because silence leaves space for projection, and projection is rarely kind. Audience behavior also began to change. Some viewers stopped sharing clips, saying that constant loop felt unhealthy. Others doubled down, insisting attention was necessary to keep questions alive. Fans debated whether disengaging would allow narratives to fade or simply empower those who benefit from quiet. This debate revealed how deeply invested people had become, not just in the story, but in their role as spectators. As time passed, the tone of commentary videos shifted. Early excitement gave way to heavier, more reflective language. Creators acknowledged that even unproven stories can leave permanent marks. They spoke about reputations that may never fully recover once doubt is planted. Emotions ran high as viewers realized that closure might never arrive, yet consequences already had. Another layer of tension came from comparisons to past controversies. People pointed out how often similar cycles repeat, with different names but the same structure. Accusations surface, commentary explodes, and eventually attention drifts elsewhere without resolution. Fans question whether lessons are ever learned, or if audiences simply move on to the next spectacle. This sense of inevitability added a somber tone to the discussion. Some voices attempted to recenter the conversation on caution. They urged viewers to remember that commentary is not evidence and suspicion is not proof. Others dismissed these reminders as naive, arguing that power rarely exposes itself willingly. Emotions ran high because both perspectives felt valid to different people. The lack of shared ground made meaningful